Welcome to the CareerMetis Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. I'm also the founder and editor of the blog, CareerMetis.com. And this is episode 55 of the podcast. And this particular episode is part of a Day in the Life of series. In each of these episodes, I have been conducting interviews with professionals, individuals from a particular career. And the goal, just to recap, the goal of these interviews is for someone looking to get into a particular field, you get an inside view of what it is to work in that field or career day in, day out. So that's the goal of the Day in the Life of series. And for today's episode, I'm speaking with a full-time real estate investor, and our guest's name is Edna Keep. Edna will be sharing her experience, how she got started, why she got started, some of the benefits, some of the challenges of the career itself. Edna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be on here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Before we actually get into the interview and we find out what a real estate investor does, could you tell me where you're calling from?
I am in White City, Saskatchewan, which is just outside the capital city of our province.
Okay. I'm based in Toronto, so it's two Canadians on the call here. Could you tell us something, let's say a fun fact about your city or town, or even your province?
Yeah, sure. You know what? Our province is one of the fastest. It is the fastest growing province in Canada right now, and we distribute the most potash in the world. We just built the most efficient potash mine in the world.
For those of you who are not familiar, just to clarify, a province is a state for our American friends down south. So Saskatchewan is one of the western states. I've heard beautiful things about of people who have been there. And I personally met a few people from Saskatchewan, very friendly, nice people. So it's always a pleasure to speak to someone from there.
Oh, thank you.
So now moving on to the interview, I wanted to ask you a little bit about yourself, so you can give us a quick introduction about who you are and how you got started in this career.
I was a financial advisor for many, many years. I sold people mutual funds primarily, and we just got tired of having all our money in the ups and downs of the stock market. So we just thought we would initially add a different income stream to our portfolio. So we thought, well, we'll learn about it and we'll buy, a house or two and just see how that goes. And 2 years in, I liked it so much. I really could see all the value of real estate that I never used to understand. So much so that I actually sold my financial planning practice and went into investing real estate full time.
Wow. So this started off as an experiment and then you made it into a full-time career. And how many years have you been doing this?
10 years now. It'll be 10 years next month.
Wow. Congratulations on that milestone.
Thank you.
So I'm glad because I'm speaking to someone who's been doing that for a few years. So you are the right person for explaining this career. So can you tell me what exactly, for those who do not know and listening to this podcast, what exactly does a real estate investor do?
Well, we invest in real estate for long-term buy and hold rental properties. So most of what we own now is actually apartment buildings, and we own them, run them. And our claim to fame has been kind of that we've been able to purchase $47 million worth of real estate with very, very little of our own money. So the first two properties we bought, we used the equity out of our home. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we actually brought investors in to purchase properties with us. And I think my background as a financial advisor really helped me there because I could show people why real estate was such a good investment, especially after I'd sold mutual funds for must have been at least 15 years. And I could really see the investment potential in real estate, even more so than mutual funds. So I just started selling people on that. And now I have a bunch of people that have invested with us and allowed us to build that kind of portfolio.
That's great. So a real estate investor is someone who essentially invests in real estate as opposed to a realtor who actually sells properties, right?
Yes, that's exactly correct. Sometimes people get me mixed up and they think I'm a realtor, and I said, no, I don't sell real estate. I only buy.
That's awesome. and you make an income out of it, right? So that's
yes, we do.
That's the best part. So what does your day-to-day look like? And if someone wants to become a real estate investor, what would it look like?
Well, when I first started, our days, look, we just did a lot of learning because there's a lot of challenges that can happen in the real estate market. And you really, really need to know what you're doing. Similar to when I decided to be a financial advisor, I had to learn about the markets. I had to attend a lot of training, and I actually became a certified financial planner back then. So very similar. So our first year in was all about learning. And then we met some people who had actually been purchasing, and we kind of got to know the markets in our area. That was a good place to be purchasing, to go with kind of the safest clients and the profile of the tenants that we wanted to work with, and then from there we alternate between buying properties and then looking for investors to invest in them with us. And I do this with my husband, which is a nice partnership, and he finds most of the properties, and then I find all the investors.
And so, just to curious, in your case, you had an experience, and you have a partner who's also working within the business. What if someone does not have that 15 years experience in your expertise? Can they also get started?
Absolutely. I actually train people on that nowadays because from the area that we're in, a lot of people are interested in getting into the real estate market because our market's a little bit lower than the rest of Canada. So we feel like we've got a lot of room to play catch up. And not a lot of people wanted to travel like we did all over the country to try to figure out what to do. And when we signed up for our courses, we had to travel all over Canada. We were in Toronto and Vancouver and Edmonton and Calgary and then Florida and Las Vegas. So different places we were going just to do all our learning. So I decided that I would bring what I learned back to the local people, and that was my start. Of course, it's a lot more Canada and US, and I even have students now from the UK. But yeah, absolutely, you can get started. The first thing I recommend is get educated, and you can find somebody in your local area. The second thing that I think really helped us grow quickly, because our goal was that we would buy 50 doors within 5 years. And we thought that was a very, very aggressive plan. And because we wanted to be making $5,000 a month in passive income, we already were, both of us were happy doing what we were doing. We weren't looking for a career change. So we just thought if we could make $5,000 a month passive income from something else, we'd be set. And you know what? We hit that goal in 18 months. And part of it was because we started to joint venture with people who had already done what we were looking to do. So we learned, we feel like we went through our learning curve a lot quicker than most people, because we didn't just rely on classroom learning. We learned from actually doing it with our joint venture partners.
You bring up a very important point, the whole concept of education, and anybody looking to get into a field, I always ask this question. What do you mean by education? Are you talking about degrees or certifications?
No, the only place you really get degrees and certifications is if you decide to be a realtor. A real estate investor is you don't get a certification. Like you go through the classes. For example, different classes that we went through were creative financing, which was what really taught me about being able to buy real estate with other people's money. And then there was rent to owns, which is a popular strategy, agreements for sale. We learned asset protection and estate planning, property management. Like there was a whole bunch of different classes that we could take to learn all that. And we actually purchased our first education package through the Rich Dad Poor Dad group, which is Robert Kiyosaki's group. And we learned a lot by taking those classes.
So what I'm hearing is you find the right experts, people who have done it, and get their feedback and learn from them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for clarifying that, because real estate agents, they need to go through an intensive, depending on the state or province they are in or the country, they need to go through an extensive study process and certification. So this is totally different. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
So once someone gets started, what is the career path? Like where can they take this?
Well, at this point in our lives, 10 years later, like I said, we own $47 million worth of real estate. We have 25 investors that we work with generally, and most of them reinvest with us all the time. And we've got 437 doors, so that's quite a bit different than what we first started out thinking we wanted 50 doors in 5 years. And we manage it. We train other people. Our ultimate goal is that we want to train people who we'd like to be joint venture partners with, so that they're out shopping for properties. Because that's one of the things is our province is on the smaller side. Most of our properties are in our province, and we would like to go more across Canada and even the U.S. I have some students in the U.S. that are shopping for me right now, and we want to train them so that they would be the joint venture partners that we want to eventually deal with.
Okay, that sounds. Thanks for clarifying that, and that also sounds like a plan. So it looks like you set the course of how you want to take it. Depends on your individual goals. How do you want to build this? So that gives me some more clarification. So the next question, you sound very excited about this, and you also now teach people. What of all the things that you do as an investor, real estate investor, what are some of the things that you enjoy the most?
You know what? Right now, at this point in my life, the biggest excitement I get is helping my clients and my students purchase a building. For example, the other day, in December, these two young guys that work with me, they're 20 years old. They had bought their first 12-unit apartment building, and just the other day, like today's Friday, I believe it was on Monday or Tuesday, they got a phone call from somebody who owned a building down the street from the one they just took possession of, and they wanted to know if they'd be interested in buying it. So they went out, had a meeting with them, made an offer the same day, got the offer accepted, and they're now that once they purchase that property, they will own 48 doors, and they started with me less than a year ago. So stuff like that to me is just as much fun as when we were back at the beginning and learning how to buy our own properties, and remember how excited we were when it happened. And I just love that. It just really fulfills me that I'm able to help these people. Like we've changed the lives of our students, helping them create passive income. These guys bypassed university. They decided not to go to university. They still live at home with their parents while they're building their real estate investment portfolio. And less than a year, 48 doors.
Wow, that is a great example. Thanks.
Yeah.
Of course, I in my experience, when I do these interviews, every career, every job, every business has its challenges. So what would you say are some of the challenges that one will face in doing this?
You know what? We are probably going through one of our biggest challenges this year, and that is we grew so fast, and we we brought in a lot of investors. Our plan when we buy a property is we pay our investors back 100% before we get any share of the profits. And what we're finding is right now, when we're kind of expecting where we should have had our biggest paydays for cash flow, we and have our investors 100% paid back. Well, we've got most of our investors paid back. That hasn't been an issue, but our cash flow hasn't been as high the last year as it has been the prior 8 years, because we're going through a down market here. And because we're all in our province, we're seeing all of our portfolio drop in cash flow. So that's a challenge. First of all, that we purchase so quickly, and also that we purchased all in one market. So those are some of the things that we're learning that's challenging. That's another reason why we want to train our people so that we can invest in different markets more so. I mean, I love Saskatchewan. I love investing here, and I think that there's room for other people to invest here, but we probably have our biggest challenge by being 100%, well, not even 100. We're probably about 80% invested in our province. So that's one thing to be aware of.
So this is a challenge as you grow. But what about when you started? Let's say someone like me or anyone listening. Oh, I've never done this. I want to do this today. What do you think what are some of the roadblocks they will come across?
If they do their training first, that will take away a lot of their roadblocks. The other thing that I think a person needs to do is be around other people that are doing what you want to do. And then there's always the naysayers, oh, you can't do that. What makes you think you can do that? Oh, that's risky. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Lots of people do it, but you won't be able to do it. So it's a lot of naysayers. And you know what? A lot of times it's people close to people and they're just really trying to protect them. But sometimes it scares people off of doing anything. And then 5 years later, they come back, and I've had many people took same classes as I did and they didn't do anything with them. Now they come back to us and they go, oh my gosh, we wish we would have did what you did. We wish we would have taken those classes now. We wish we would have partnered up with you. Now it's too late. And I go, no, you know what? It's not too late. People are doing well, even starting today. So, that would be the biggest challenge. And for some people, a big challenge is that they feel like they need to have a lot of money. And I know we did too. When we started, we thought, well, we might be able to afford to buy, 1 or 2 houses. We take the equity out of our property. But when we learned the secret of raising capital and using other people's money to buy real estate, then we were able to grow exponentially and help a ton of other people invest in real estate and take it, get passive income as well. So just getting past those doubts, those naysayers, and taking a chance on yourself, because I think that's the biggest thing is believing in yourself well enough to just go ahead and start working at it. Mm-hmm. That would be my opinion on that.
That's some solid advice there. Thank you, Edna. For the last question as we wrap up this interview, what advice, you did mention this already, but if you were to give the top 2 or 3 advice, what advice will you give to someone who wants to get into this field today?
Find somebody who has done what you want to do. Meaning if you want to get into the long-term buy and hold market where you're looking for passive income, find somebody who's doing that successfully, because they can teach you a lot from their learning curves. If you want to get into the fix and flip, follow people who've done it. There's a lot of coaches and trainers out there that they start coaching and they start training, and they haven't really even done what they're advising other people to do. And I think that's a big mistake. Also, trying to do it on your own. I've seen so many people buy, maybe 4 properties, and they decide, well, I'm going to save the money and I'm not going to get a property manager. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to save the money. I'm going to, do all my repairs and maintenance and stuff like that. Well, my experience is you may get 4 properties if you're working it like that. I call it the lone wolf mentality. And then you're stuck because you're so busy working in that stuff every day that there's no opportunity for you to grow. You quit looking for properties, you quit looking for deals because you actually start thinking, I couldn't even handle another deal.
I mean, so the gist of what you mentioned is get acquainted with others, work with others, build a team. It is, you can only do so much when you're doing it yourself. So that was what I took away from that.
Exactly, yeah.
So Edna, thank you very much for joining us. You shared some insights. Any last words before we say goodbye to the audience?
And you know what? One other thing I would say to people is, becoming successful is not easy. So do what you love, because if you're going to go after your dreams and you're struggling with stuff that you hate to do, and sometimes the only way we can find that out is by trial and error. But if it's too big of a struggle, look for something that comes easier to you. One of the biggest things that I learned is to work within my strengths and to maximize my strengths. So one of the things that I find easy to do is to just talk to people. And so I never knew that was a strength until a teacher pointed it out to me one time, actually. And it makes your life so much easier if you're working within something you already like to do.
That's actually an awesome advice. I think that advice applies to anything in life.
It does.
So I love, that's an excellent wrap up to our interview. Edna, thanks for joining us. Have yourself a great day. It was a pleasure having you as a guest.
Well, thank you very much. It was nice chatting with you, and I look forward to hearing some more of your podcasts that you're putting out.
Thanks, and you're welcome. Thanks, folks, for listening to this episode of the CareerMetis Podcast. I have written a brief summary of the interview as a part of a blog post on CareerMetis.com. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to post a comment or a review. If you learned something new and if you really loved it, definitely go ahead and share it among your network. You can find all the episodes of the CareerMetis Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, even now recently SoundCloud, and very soon YouTube as well. Until next time, this is Nisar Ahmed, your host for the CareerMetis Podcast. Thank you.